Hey everyone, Victor is here, and in this video I want to talk about the Beckmann rearrangement, which is a reaction where we typically start with either ketone or oxime and convert those into the corresponding amide or lactone in the case of these cyclic compounds. And since ketones are a very common starting point for the Beckmann rearrangement transformations, let's start with a ketone as well, the benzophenone in this case, and the first step that's going to be happening here is the oxime formation. In a nutshell, oxime formation is essentially exactly the same mechanism as the formation of the imines, and I do have a dedicated tutorial on that. So I will only briefly go through the mechanism here, and we're going to start by the nucleophilic attack from nitrogen of our hydroxylamine attacking the carbonyl carbon, like so, giving us the following intermediate. Then we're going to have a couple of proton transfers. I'm going to combine them into the same step, giving us the neutral intermediate, which we are going to protonate. So I'm going to bring my H+, which comes from HCl or whatever other acid you might be using there. We are going to protonate our OH to make that into a better leaving group. And now, once we have our leaving group over here, we are going to get rid of that by using the nitrogen's electrons to help push it away and forming our carbon-nitrogen double bond. And the last bit that we have here is going to be water or anything with an electron pair coming in, pull that proton off like so, giving us our oxime as the final product of this step. And as I've mentioned a moment ago, this is essentially just an imine formation mechanism, so if you need a refresher on how that works step by step, I do have a tutorial on that. Alright, so now when we have our oxime, we can move on to the Beckmann rearrangement itself, and typically we are going to be doing the Beckmann rearrangement in the presence of a strong acid, usually sulfuric acid, although other alternatives do exist. So since we are working in strongly acidic conditions, I'm going to write this H+ to represent my acid, and step number 1 here is going to be the protonation of the oxygen of our oxime, giving us the following intermediate here. And now we have our H2O+, which is an excellent leaving group, so the next thing that's going to be happening in this reaction, our leaving group is going to dissociate, and at the same time, while the leaving group is dissociating, one of our groups is going to migrate onto the nitrogen. And an interesting thing about this migration is that typically the group which is trans to our leaving group is going to be the one that is migrating. In this particular case, I have two phenyl groups, so it doesn't really matter, but if I had my hypothetical X and Y groups, the group X is trans to my leaving group, so it's going to be that one that migrates. If, let's say, my leaving group, my H2O+, was on the other side of the molecule, so right over here, then it would have been the group Y that migrates. Typically, the oxime formation is governed by thermodynamics, so usually the leaving group ends up being trans to the bulkiest group due to simple thermodynamics. It's not always the case, but that is a typical case. So to make it a little bit easier to visualize what happens here, I'm going to redraw the part of the molecule that stays unchanged. Now I'm going to add that phenyl group to my nitrogen, and the carbon that I have over here, well, that carbon no longer has a bond to the phenyl group because the phenyl group grabbed all of its electrons while it was moving, and we do have a plus charge over here. So if I were to redraw my molecule in a slightly better way, that's going to be the picture. And because this carbocation is sitting right next to a nitrogen with an electron pair, that carbocation is actually going to be resonance stabilized, giving us the following resonance structure, which is actually going to be our major resonance contributor. And needless to say, because we have a carbocationic intermediate, that intermediate is incredibly electrophilic. So that water which we just kicked out is a perfectly suitable nucleophile which is going to immediately reattack our cationic species, so we can use the resonance contributor on the bottom, or I could show the same with the resonance contributor on the top, doesn't matter which one you choose. And as a result of this nucleophilic attack, we're going to get the following protonated intermediate, which naturally we're going to immediately deprotonate with water or whatever we have with an electron pair around, giving us the neutral version of our molecule. Now, looking carefully at this molecule, you might recognize that this portion of our molecule is quite similar to an enol. We also have an OH group sitting on a double bond, in this case a carbon-nitrogen double bond, which, similar to enols, is not particularly stable, so we are going to undergo keto-enol tautomerism, although it's not really keto-enol tautomerism, so it's just tautomerism, and we are going to restore carbonyl rather than have this enol-like form. So to show my tautomerism here, I'm going to bring my H+, I'm going to protonate my molecule, giving us the following protonated positively charged intermediate. Of course, from this point, we can show the next resonance structure where I shift my electrons around like so, and you can already see that this resonance structure already resembles carbonyl way more, so the only thing that we have left is again to bring something that's going to deprotonate our molecule, so I'm going to bring water, pull that proton off, and we're going to get our final product, which is an amide. It's a little bit of a longer mechanism, so let's do a quick recap here. So our first step with sulfuric acid was to convert our OH into a good leaving group. Once we have our leaving group, the leaving group is kicked off, and the group that was trans to our leaving group migrates onto the nitrogen. That gives us a resonance-stabilized intermediate, which is incredibly electrophilic, that is immediately attacked by the nucleophile in the system, which is water, which after a number of proton transfers going to eventually lead to the formation of the amide via the tautomerism that we are going to have for our intermediate. So this mechanism really combines multiple aspects of both first and second semester organic chemistry. So needless to say that if you guys are covering that in your class, chances are you might be seeing that on the test. And while we are on the subject of the mechanism of the Beckmann rearrangement here, there is one huge problem with this reaction in general. And the problem is that we are going to have to use concentrated sulfuric acid and higher temperature. While higher temperature is usually not that big of a deal, although many organic substances are kind of heat sensitive, the use of the concentrated sulfuric acid often is going to be a problem. So over the years, a few useful variations of the Beckmann rearrangement have been developed. Since the key here is to convert our OH into a good leaving group, turns out that if we use other techniques that convert that OH into a good leaving group, we can quite easily proceed with the Beckmann rearrangement without the use of the concentrated sulfuric acid. Probably the most common classic variation is the use of acidic anhydride, which converts our OH into the corresponding acetate, which is a much better leaving group than the OH by itself. Another option is to use thionyl chloride, which is a nasty reagent, but it does the trick, and it makes an amazingly good leaving group. Or another much friendlier method is to use the cyanouric chloride, and unlike acetic acid anhydride or thionyl chloride, this guy doesn't tend to burn your eyes and nostrils every time you're around it, so it's kind of a win in my books. But regardless which method we use to convert our OH into a good leaving group, they all are going to undergo the Beckmann-style rearrangement, and they all are going to give us our corresponding amide upon the aqueous workup that we're usually going to have to do at the end. Now, while Beckmann rearrangement with all of its variations does tend to give pretty good yields, there is one significant complication with that reaction, and that is Beckmann fragmentation. Let's say we have this starting material where I'm starting with the oxime and I have the methoxy group that is next to our CN double bond. If I took this molecule and I subjected it to the Beckmann rearrangement conditions, like let's say sulfuric acid and heat, or I converted our OH into a good leaving group using one of the alternative methods, then once I get our leaving group, then once this leaving group tries to leave, instead of migrating carbon onto the nitrogen, we are going to see the bond breaking, splitting our molecule in the middle, where now we get this stable nitrile, and the nucleophile that we have in our system, water in this case, instead of doing the attack on the perfectly neutral and unreactive nitrile, it's just going to pull the proton next to our carbocationic intermediate like so, and instead we end up with an alkene. So the Beckmann fragmentation is quite typical and very common if the formation of a tertiary carbocation or resonance stabilized carbocation like what we have in this case is possible. So if you do have a fancy molecule, then chances are instead of the Beckmann rearrangement, you might end up with a fragmentation and not get what you wanted. So gotta be very careful when you're planning your synthesis. And as always, thank you for watching. If you liked this video and learned something new today, boop the like button and let me know about that in the comments below. Subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.